just a bit outside.
Welcome on into another episode of Nate at the Foul Pole. We were live last week. We will be live next week with Nate from Full Count Chaos. That's going to be great. But we are recorded today. This is our Friday pod, our weekly pod. I'm here with, as always, with Matt Pine, my co-host. How you doing, Matt?
Doing okay, Zach. It's kind of cool to see baseball back in the swing of things back in April. Not just the Orioles, but kind of checking out some other games. We've had 2 no-hitters already in the young season and almost a perfect game. So that's been exciting.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of different from every other Orioles fan in that I do really enjoy watching the Nats, and that's going to make a lot of people mad, I'm sure. But I do watch a lot of Nats baseball as well, and they've been losing a lot, just like the O's. But I guess it's fun to see any team play right now, especially when we weren't really guaranteed a season with COVID this year. I mean, we got a season and it got off on time, but try to take in as much baseball as you can, I guess, for right now, even if it's not the Orioles. But the Orioles, as we should mention, and what this show is about, are off to a really rough start. Matt, what have you seen from them in the first couple weeks after the 3-0 sweep against Boston?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot more optimism last week, and that was even coming off of a series loss to the Yankees. But since then, they've only won one game in 6 games, or 7 games, actually. 7 games, 4-game series. It just seems to me that they're not playing up to their potential. There's a lot of missing in the fundamentals that I'm seeing. And you could look at that in the pitching. You could look at that on defense. But just a lot of the swings and misses, they just seem so overeager. And that's just not how you play winning baseball.
Yeah, the Orioles right now, they're in last place. Unsurprisingly, that's where they're going to be for the most of the year. Mm-hmm. But they're sharing last place with the Rays, who are also 5-8.
World Series.
And yeah, the World Series runner-up, I guess we should call them, last year. Mm-hmm. And they are a great team. They're struggling. So it shows you how early this is in the season. They've only played 13 games. There's time to get a little better. But I think you made a good point. They really don't – they're not living up to their potential right now. I mean, this is a team that's going to be bad. They're going to lose 90-plus games. We've been over that. But it's not a not talented lineup. It's a really talented lineup. You've got guys like Ryan Mountcastle, Trey Mancini, Michael Franco. Cedric Mullins is coming onto the scene big time. It's not like there's no talent here. If there really is, I would put this lineup over other rebuilding teams' lineups for sure. You look at the Pirates, you look at the Mariners, who they just lost 3 of 4 to. They're a better lineup, but they're not playing up to their potential. And you mentioned the approach. It's awful. The approach is let's go up there and swing at anything, and we're just guessing. That's what they're doing right now. And that's going to have to change. I don't care if you're going to lose 100 games. Your approach has got to change sometime.
Yeah, I've always said you evaluate a baseball team month to month. You look at their record at the end of each month, and that's how you evaluate instead of week to week. But you can still nitpick early on, and you can say, okay, well, my eyes tell me this is not right a team living up to their potential right now. And I think they've had a little bit of frustration, especially maybe on the part of Brandon Hyde. But I do have a lot of optimism for the rest of the season in terms of there's going to be a little bit of roster churn. We might see some new guys like Jahmai Jones, might see Yusniel Diaz at some point, maybe some pitchers break onto the scene at some point as well. So, I mean, yeah, it's frustrating now to see some of these guys are going to be traded. I could see, Freddie Galvis being traded, Matt Harvey being traded, Michael Franco being traded. So there's going to be some roster churn. So at least we're going to see some fresh faces in the coming months.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really frustrating to me is that they're 2-8 in their last 10 games, and that's just not good. I mean, and obviously, again, we expect this team to lose games, but 2-8 in your last 10 is horrible. And if they continue that, they're not going to win many games at all. They're going to win, 45, 50 games if they continue going 2-8 in a 10-game series. So, and I think a lot of this, is all really coming off of the top of the lineup, the best hitters, guys like Trey Mancini, guys like Santander, guys like Mountcastle, who are just kind of off the slow starts. And I think for Trey, we know the reason for that. I mean, Trey is coming back from colon cancer. He didn't play in 2020. He just picked up a bat in I think it was October and maybe November. and started swinging again. I get it. The timing's probably a little bit off still. But the chase rate is really high for Trey Mancini. The chase rate's really high for Ryan Mountcastle. And the best hitters on this team aren't hitting. And Cedric Mullins, he's been hitting great. He's one of the best players in baseball right now. He's the most hits in Major League Baseball. He's going to slow down at some point, which leaves your offense at a not very good state. And I'm a little scared when Cedric Mullins slows down and he's 0 for his last 6, I should mention. So when he does slow down, someone else is going to have to pick up the slack. I don't know who it's going to be, but one of the top guys, one of the best hitters, they have to start getting going at some point, you would think.
Yeah, I mean, Cedric Mullins is not going to be hitting 388 the rest of the season.
Right.
On base percentage of 455. But to that point, Trey Mancini is also not going to be hitting 163 for the rest of the season.
True.
He already has 3 home runs, which leads the team. 388 slugging, which is not what you want to see from your power hitter on your team. But I gotta imagine at some point Mountcastle picks it up. Gotta imagine Mancini picks it up. We've seen some good things from Santander, but he's still not hitting where he should be. He's not the player he was that we saw the first 2 months of last season. So you could look at it, glass half full in that capacity. But yeah, I mean, you got to have players early on. And the problem is with this team, they're not scoring early enough. That teams are scoring early. They're already in a deficit. They have to come back almost every single game. And you just can't play winning baseball like that.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Ryan Mountcastle, you mentioned Santander, you mentioned Mancini. Those are 3 guys. They're great hitters. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily worried about what they're doing so far. They'll come around. And you make a good point that they will eventually come around. They're not going to hit, like you said, Trey Mancini's not going to hit 163 all year. He's going to come around eventually, but it's just when it's going to be for the Orioles. And if the lineup gets hot at one time, this can be a really talented lineup, as I mentioned earlier. But the other thing about this and what you just mentioned is that they're wasting a lot of good pitching performances. They're not scoring early enough. You're letting Matt Harvey give you 2-run ball into the 5th and the 6th, and then you don't score for him. And you saw that yesterday with Trey Mancini putting 2 runs on the board. Matt Harvey gives up a 2-run home run, and then it kind of just unravels the whole thing. And that's just kind of been the problem for the Orioles. The run support for their starting pitching, which has been relatively good. I mean, I think that's one of the bright spots for the Orioles, especially early on. The pitching, is actually pretty solid. You've seen guys like Harvey, you've seen Means, you've seen Zimmerman throw some really solid games, and the Orioles simply aren't putting enough runs on the board. And like you said, early enough to actually count. So it's kind of rough in all situations when you look at it. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce Zimmerman so far in 3 starts, 4.24 ERA. If he gives you that really for the full season, I mean, that's a phenomenal first season for him. John Means, 2.16 ERA. Matt Harvey, it's 5.02, but you expect nothing better than that really from Matt Harvey.
Is 5.02 bad for Matt Harvey? I don't think it is.
5.02.
Yeah, I don't think that's bad at all. I mean, I think that is very acceptable.
We have a little bet going, you and I, on the ERA. I said he would get an ERA less than 5.99. So, go Matt Harvey.
It's a win-win for me, honestly. I'm not going to be upset if Matt Harvey keeps pitching well. He's certainly been better than what I expected. I think my reaction and pretty much every Orioles fan's reaction, I don't know about yours, Matt, but mine when they signed Matt Harvey was that, why? Matt Harvey has had no success since coming from the Mets, where he really tailed off at the end of his career there. I didn't know why, and it looks like Chris Holt has found something in Matt Harvey. We titled the last episode "The Dark Knight Rises." I conveniently misspelled it on Twitter. That was great, but Matt Harvey has definitely put together some decent appearances, and I really can't complain with a 5 ERA. I really can't.
I mean, when they signed him initially, my reaction was, I wasn't thinking on the field. I was thinking, this is going to be a fun team. You get a nice personality in the clubhouse. Yeah. But, anything on that is icing on the cake, as they say. Not all the starters have been great. Jorge Lopez definitely leaves a lot to be desired on the mound.
He does.
Dean Kramer hasn't been good so far. But you've had some standouts in the bullpen. Cesar Valdez has been doing a nice job. Tanner Scott, he gave up the 2 runs the other night, but he's been very solid. Adam Pleco as well. He also gave up a 2-run homer, but his ERA is 2.16. So you look for bright spots where you can expect them from and just kind of roll the dice.
Yeah, good point about Adam Pleco. He's looking like a really solid impact reliever, and he can go multiple innings, 2, 3, 4. I think we could see him in the rotation at some point, but honestly, I think I would keep him in the bullpen where he's been successful so far. Yeah. You mentioned he gave up a few runs the other night, and he did, but overall, he was pitching to a 0 ERA before that. He had been extremely effective as far as until that appearance. But Pleco, he came over from the Indians for cash considerations because he had no options left. The Indians didn't have any room on the roster. So it was a good move by Mike Elias to swoop in and get a guy they actually liked a lot. I can't imagine what the bullpen would be without him right now. You look at across the bullpen, guys like Paul Fry, guys like Sean Armstrong, they're not really performing up to their level they should be. And Pleco can kind of be a more stabilizing force for the bullpen.
Yeah, you're going to need a guy to not only eat innings, but also be effective when you need – when you have a starter that only goes 4 innings, you need a guy that can come in, give you 3-4 innings, really stretch out your bullpen a little bit and give those guys some rest. And that's really invaluable for some of these flamethrowers, in the bullpen in Dylan Tate or Tanner Scott. They're going to need some rest. So you can't really be throwing those guys out there night in, night out.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked to see Tanner Scott give up the I believe it was a 2-run double he did in yesterday's doubleheader. That was
he's human.
Not his best pitch. But I want to say he was around 38 pitches when he threw that one there.
He's not
a long reliever for sure.
He's a 20 pitch or less probably type of guy.
And that's why he is so effective, is because he gets his velocity so high so early in his pitch count, and that's why he's so good. The slider is going to start losing break. He has a wipeout slider, but how long can you keep it going? And Tanner couldn't, unfortunately, yesterday. I think Brandon Hyde left him in because he was facing a lefty, and I think that makes sense. I'm not going to knock Brandon Hyde for that at all. Tanner Scott's your best reliever, and he's facing a lefty, and he's your best lefty. And that's the move that had to be made. You had to keep him in. And Tanner Scott, I don't worry about at all. He's going to come back and probably throw a shutout inning in his next appearance, hopefully soon. But, Matt, I do want to bring up a guy and just talk about this for a second, because it's kind of getting interesting to me. Cesar Valdez, signed out of the Mexican League, had some success for the Orioles in 2020, and it kind of has asserted himself as the closer in 2021. Is there going to be trade value with Cesar Valdez? He's I believe 36 years old, but he's extremely effective as a closer for the Orioles. Is a playoff team, maybe someone like the Blue Jays, who could be looking for a closer, what do you see any kind of trade value there?
I do, just because every year it seems that there's a veteran reliever that gets dealt.
Yeah.
And then that guy becomes kind of a mainstay to their playoff run. And if he continues what he's doing now, he blew 1 save, but he's 2 out of 3. He's still very effective. He's striking out 9 batters per 9 innings, 1.11 whip. I mean, that's going to be valuable no matter what his age is. That's going to be valuable.
Yeah, people don't really know this that much, but teams really look at relief pitching as one of the highest, really the highest value thing they can get outside of maybe starting pitching. And the fact is, there's just not that much great relief pitching. You don't have that many guys who can come in and you can almost guarantee a shutdown inning from them. So relief pitching is so highly valued, and you see a lot of guys get dealt for surprising returns. You see Michael Givens bringing back, Taron Vavra and Tyler Nevin last year. That's a surprising return, a huge return for the Orioles on a guy who is really not that great of a pitcher. Right. And it happens all the time. You see, like you said, veteran reliever gets traded all the time. It brings back generally a lot more than you would think it would. So you look at a guy like Cesar Valdez, who is, a pretty legitimate closer, I would say. Maybe not the best in the league, but he's probably, top 20 out of 30.
Yeah.
he's in the
middle of the road.
Right. I would think he's in the top 1/3. So, he is a guy who might actually bring some solid prospects back for the Orioles.
Yeah, it's possible. We talked a little bit preseason, maybe a guy like Paul Fry. If you're looking at a guy who lefty-lefty matchup, he would match up well. But we've seen the last 5 years how valuable, relief pitching has been. Kansas City literally won a World Series on the back of their bullpen. The Cubs traded for Aroldis Chapman when they needed to win a World Series. The Yankees
gave up one of the best players in the league.
They gave up Gleyber Torres, absolutely. So you're going to see a decent return no matter who the relief pitcher is. If they're effective and they can help you win playoff games, they're going to get a good return.
Yeah, you're right. So relief pitching, it is very valued. It's something that teams really look at highly. And you mentioned Paul Fry. I think Paul Fry is going to be. He'll get better. He's had kind of a rough start to the season, and he's been, maybe the spring training kind of threw him off a little bit because he was pretty ineffective there. But I believe Paul Fry will get back to being the effective Paul Fry we saw in 2020. At least I hope he will, because the Orioles kind of need that. They need an impact lefty outside of Tanner Scott in the bullpen. Mm-hmm. I want to talk about surprising slow starts for a minute, because there is a guy for the Orioles that I've been kind of frustrated with myself, and that's Freddie Galvis. Obviously one of the worst shortstops that was on the market this year, and that's why the Orioles signed him, because they're not looking to go out and sign the best player on the market right now. That's just not where the Orioles are. So they signed Freddie Galvis, cheap deal, only about a couple $1 million at most. I forget what the exact number was, but he's played kind of poorly. He's not hitting very well. Finally, hit his first home run in the second game of the doubleheader yesterday. Mm-hmm. But the defense, to me, has not been very good. His range is so limited. Are you seeing the same problems as I am? Because I don't know. I feel like there are some better options the Orioles have. I think for defensive purposes, solely, Richie Martin's a better defender.
Yeah, I don't think he was quite as advertised, at least in the first 13 games. He's kind of advertised as this very solid defender, if not plus defender, with power. And we kind of know his hitting struggles already. Like to see him get on base a little bit more, but yeah, it's not really what was advertised to Orioles fans. I think he's going to be a temporary player on this team, maybe no longer than July. But like you said, Karen Vavra, there's a couple of guys that are options. Richie Martin, an option as well. But they still kind of have yet to find that shortstop that's going to be a mainstay.
Yeah, they gave Mason McCoy a pretty long look in spring training, and I was not impressed from what I saw personally. But spring training can be a little bit deceptive, I guess. But
I'm a big Mason McCoy fan just because of his story. Senior sign, working his way up through the ranks, and I root for guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly am rooting for him. I mean, I hope he becomes a solid player, but I haven't seen enough personally. I haven't seen him live enough personally to make a really good opinion. You don't get to see the minors too much at all if you're not watching minor league baseball TV, and I don't. So I haven't really seen a lot of Mason McCoy. I probably should get it this year though, because of Adley Rutschman. I mean, we have to watch.
This is true.
Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Grayson Rodriguez. We have to. I think it's a good investment this year.
And I don't want to poo-poo the Masson app, but I feel like that's a huge opportunity if they could somehow partner with MILB to show a couple of those games, or at least show highlights or something in real time. That would be really cool.
Let's talk about the Masson app for a minute. Have you downloaded it? Have you seen
No, I haven't downloaded it. One, because I heard it's not great. Number two, I don't even think it's available because I have Android, so I don't know if it's available for me.
Yeah, you're not wasting your time by Yeah, I guess I should say you are wasting your time by even thinking about downloading the Masson app.
Right.
It's not good. It's okay. I don't want to. I know it's their first attempt at an app, but to make it available for only 5 TV providers, none of them besides DirecTV and Armstrong are even really known to me. Like I have not heard of any of the other ones.
Right. I think was it Bayview something other?
Baywatch maybe. I don't know.
Baywatch.
I don't know. It was something like Bayview might. Maybe right, but like some kind of Chesapeake Bay, really small
Eastern Shore
TV
type
provider.
Thing. Yeah.
If you're not giving people the option for like Fios and Comcast and like all the other big ones, I don't know what you're doing. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. And I also think that you could probably, for like $99 or maybe probably even less than that, you could go like $75 and let people watch any Orioles game out of market too. You could just pay the flat rate. That's it. You get all the Orioles games. It seems smart to me. I think they'll make improvements. I'm confident in that.
I know they did want to get it out before opening day. It was a couple of days after opening day. I don't necessarily even think they should have rushed it if this was going to be the end product. If they knew they were sacrificing quality, I would have totally been fine with them waiting a few months extra to get the quality up, get the all the providers in there. I do applaud them for trying, at least in the first attempt. But I mean, As an Orioles fan, you're going to be disappointed if you download it.
Well, the 5 providers that they have, you're going to make anyone with those 5 providers happy. But I also think that you can have the Armstrong app, right, and just watch on Armstrong on your phone or your tablet or whatever.
I believe that's the case.
Right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, what's the point of the Masson app then? That's just kind of my question. But the good news about the Masson app is that it provides you all the stories that get written by Rock, get written by Steve Molesky,
that's
and that's
awesome.
all really quality content.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably where the Masson app comes in handy best. You don't have to go to the website. You can just pull up the app, read any of Rock's articles.
I'm sure you can get the Masson podcast on there as well, right?
Yeah, you probably can with Paul Mancano, and that's another great thing to have. So it's not all bad for sure. The reviews are scalding. Don't look at the reviews.
Is it differentiated by the Nationals and the Orioles, or is it one app?
No, so it's one app,
Okay.
and then there's a bar at the bottom where you get to pick if you want to look at the Nats news or the Orioles.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of convenient, actually. I mean, if you really are interested in both teams, which I think a lot of people are around here, you can kind of look at both. And I guess, I guess that's helpful.
If you're Zach Goodman and you like both teams, man, this is the app for you.
I am not a Nats fan. I just enjoy watching the Nats. Like, I think that's a misconception, but I do enjoy watching the Nats. Juan Soto, who doesn't want to watch Juan Soto? Like, he is the best. He is the best baseball player in the world.
Wow.
It's a bold statement, but
that is quite the bold statement.
It's true. Juan Soto is the most talented hitter who may not have, the speed of Mike Trout, the fielding of Mike Trout, the arm of Mike Trout, but his hitting alone makes it. He's that good. He's that good.
All right. Interesting. I mean, history may prove you correct, but I'm going to be on Mike Trout's side for eternity. So
I think everyone would probably side with you. But Juan Soto is a fun player, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, the Masson app, I mean, hopefully they make some improvements. Hopefully it gets a little better, and they introduce, some of the bigger broadcasters, like, or cable TV providers, whatever you call them, like Comcast, like Fios, because I think that's generally what people have. I know a lot of people in Southern Pennsylvania, like yourself, have Armstrong. DirecTV obviously is huge everywhere. But I just don't know what the market is for what they gave you.
I'm also totally with you though, with just paying a flat rate, and just watching the games, even if you're in market. But a lot of people are switching to streaming only now. Though maybe they keep the sports with like YouTube Sports or Hulu Sports, but a lot of people are moving to streaming. You got to update with the times.
I feel like that's very true. Like a $75 flat rate for everyone who doesn't want to pay for cable, because again, you can't use the Masson app if you don't have cable. And again, the cable providers are very limited. So a flat fee makes sense. And like you said, it's where the world's going. I mean, people are cord cutting all the time now. And I know you did that where you were in the last place you lived. So it's becoming common, and Masson could really and they make a ton of money. I mean, there would be a lot of Orioles and Nats fans, especially outside of the market, who wouldn't want to pay for MLB TV and would pay for this for $75, and they'd make a lot of money.
And I mean, I guess they're trying to, that's the thing, like pull behind the curtain. If they're trying to show the value to their sponsors, I mean, you can definitely get around that. You can definitely have sponsors on the app during commercials. That's definitely a workaround.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think that's another reason why they probably made the app, more exposure for sponsors, I guess. But again, it is, the best part about the app, convenient for Rock, convenient for Steve Molesky if you want to read their articles. And then I believe Mark Zuckerman is the Nats, the lead Masson reporter for the Washington Nationals. So you get all of those stories. You probably get the Paul Mancano podcast, Masson All Access. I'd have to check on that. But that's the deal with the Masson app, I guess.
Yep. And, again, not going to miss a chance to plug Birdland tonight. If you want post-game and you don't necessarily want to tune into Masson, every single game, there's a post-game show on YouTube Live, every, Twitter Live, Twitch, any type of streaming service, you can find it. And we'll be hopping on there at some point then soon.
Yeah, Matt and I have had very limited time in the past month or so, 2 months. But, I think once the summer hits for both of us, we'll be able to jump on there and bring you a few post-game shows for sure.
Yep.
Now, if I want to stay on the Masson topic because a broadcaster made his 2021 debut this week. We kind of wanted to talk about him a little bit. Kevin Brown. He's like probably my favorite broadcaster in baseball right now. I think he is the best.
Wow.
I love his commentary. I think he's exactly the right hire that Masson made a few years ago. So I'm super excited to see more of him. We got him in the Seattle Mariners series. We will probably not get him in the Texas Rangers series coming up tonight. But
I don't think he's traveling. But well, you know what? Actually, they might be doing it from Camden Yards.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's traveling currently. Yeah,
right. Yeah, Kevin Brown, I'm definitely on board. Gary Thorne, just putting it out there, still my favorite Orioles announcer of all time.
He's a free agent, man. We can
bar none, absolutely. But Kevin Brown, he really brings the young and fresh perspective to the game. He talks about analytics a lot. I don't know if you were tuning into the broadcast yesterday, but he was talking about, Eno Saris article from The Athletic. Yeah. He was talking about Alex Fast from the pitcher list. He brings in a lot of the young authors and writers into the broadcast booth with him, and brings a lot of enthusiasm to the game.
Yeah, I know they paired him with Ben McDonald yesterday, but I'd also love to see him with Jim Palmer, just because you get that real veteran, old school experience with Jim Palmer, and then you get Kevin Brown, who, like you said, is into analytics, into all the new things that baseball has going on. So I'd love to see that personally, but he's fantastic. Masson, there's a lot of shortcomings that a lot of people criticize Masson for that we won't really get into, but they made a great decision hiring Kevin Brown. He is really one of the best broadcasters out there. I think he's up there with a guy like Matt Vasgersian. I love Matt Vasgersian. He's now doing the Angels broadcast, which is pretty awesome. But Kevin Brown is awesome. Great hire.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I don't really know too many of the current broadcasters, but like guys like Vin Scully, I love. John Miller, I loved. I would tune into MLB Network like late at night, summer nights, just to listen to Vin Scully, just because I love that old timey baseball feel. But yeah, absolutely, bringing a fresh perspective to the game never hurts.
Yeah, for sure. We do have to talk about the minor leagues. Big focus for the Orioles this year, obviously. The major league team is not putting much talent on the field right now, and everyone's kind of focused on what Adley Rutschman's doing, what all the top prospects are doing. The Orioles are playing against the Nationals down at the Bowie site. I think it's something like 3 days a week, so it's quite often. And it's a good amount of AAA prospects down there. So you're going to see guys like Jahmai Jones, kind of your higher level prospects. Tyler Nevin's another one who I'm sure.
Yusniel Diaz, right?
Yusniel Diaz, of course. Yep. So guys like that are kind of, we're going to be hearing, I guess, a little bit about their performances. The other day they played the Nationals minor league system, who I should mention is not good at all. They're ranked last in the league, but it's still talent nonetheless. They won 9-2. So the Orioles got home runs from Diaz, Austin Wynns, who's not really a prospect, but still notable, and then Jahmai Jones, who I just mentioned. So that's, a solid game for those three. Richie Martin had 2 hits. I think he had a couple RBIs. Solid performance for the Orioles AAA site.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to see those guys do well. It's the next crop of talent. We thought Jahmai Jones might have an outside chance to make this club out of spring training. Not the case, but I feel like we will see him at some point in the next couple of months. Austin Wynns, he's kind of, if they wanted a defensive, reliable catcher, he would kind of be your guy. Probably not worse than what you're putting out right now in terms of hitting. I mean, Pedro Severino's obviously shown some good things. Your boy, Francisco, I don't know what you see in him, Zach, but he is not hitting whatsoever.
Totally my favorite player of all time. I love Francisco.
So, there's a couple of options there. I think Yusniel Diaz will be kind of the next exciting player that you're going to see before Adley Rutschman makes his debut. So definitely some guys to keep an eye on down at the minor league site.
We've heard nothing about him, and I know he was injured at the end of the 2020 season, but Michael Balman was incredible apparently at the Bowie site. He's knocking on the door. He's probably the prospect I'm most excited for in this coming year. And Adley Rutschman's 2022, so obviously not that year. But Michael Balman is a very highly ranked prospect. I'm super high on Michael Balman. And I think that once he comes back, I really haven't heard about what he's done at the Bowie site so far, but it doesn't sound like he's even there at this point. When he comes back, it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for him to make his major league debut, because I think it's coming. And same with Zach Lowther. It's definitely coming for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta. Yes, they had the site in Sarasota. They've had these minor league sites, but you also wonder, like, having a year off for minor leaguers, how that affects every minor leaguer, whether their expected arrival date is pushed back or not.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the last time we saw Michael Balman, he was throwing no hitters and lighting people up. And I'm a huge Zach Lowther fan, so I'm very excited for him. I think that they loved him. Sig Mejdal and Michael Elias loved him when they were with the Astros coming out of the draft. They loved his curveball spin rate, some of his intangibles as well. So I'm very excited for him and Balman coming up.
Yeah, I think those two are going to be rotation pieces. And then if you add in, a guy like Bruce Zimmerman, who's already pitched so well for the Orioles, Dean Kramer, yet to find his command. But again, it's only been 2 starts for Dean Kramer. That's going to make a solid 4, really 4 young guys. And you add on your ace, John Means, and that's a solid rotation. Jorge Lopez, not going to last much longer. He's probably gone in a month or 2. I think maybe makes a couple bullpen appearances, but he's not a long-term guy. He's not a piece right now, really, either.
He's a warm body.
Right. He's an arm. He's gonna go throw you 70, 80 pitches and hope that he doesn't give up 5 runs. And not to be too harsh on Jorge Lopez, he does have great stuff, but it just hasn't worked out for him. Right. But I think guys like you mentioned, I mean, Zach Lowther, he's so close. Michael Ballman's so close. And the writing's on the wall for Jorge Lopez. And I think for Matt Harvey, he's probably going to put himself in a trade situation at some point if he keeps going his way. Yep. And that's going to open up your spots for guys like that. And then Keegan Aiken. I think Keegan Aiken is really close to making his return at some point too. You see another injury, Keegan Aiken will be here. I almost guarantee it in the rotation.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have – you're never going to get through a season and not have an injury in the starting rotation. It's just almost inevitable. One of the 5 guys is going to go down at some point. You can bank on that. Keegan Aiken, you know who he is. He's not going to light the world on fire, but he's not going to be awful.
It's a good analysis.
He's going to be somewhere in the middle. He didn't have a great spring training either. But you want to see him back in major leagues at some point and get him another chance, because he has always been kind of a top 15, top 20 prospect in your system.
Exactly. I think there's still maybe like a swingman role would be best for Keegan Aiken.
Maybe he's the Adam Pleco type role.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, that if he can do that and give you 3 solid innings and shut him down, then that's great. Keegan Aiken can be useful. I think one of the issues for Keegan Aiken, and I know we talked about Keegan before, but it's just his stuff is really not that good. So the second time in lineup season, the third time in lineup season, he's going to start getting hit around a little bit. If he's a 1 or 2 inning guy, he's going to have some success. And I think that's where he fits in best. Yeah.
So we're looking forward to those guys. Definitely coming up, the big arms in terms of DL Hall, Grayson Rodriguez, they're not going to make their debuts this season, I would imagine. But I think 2022, you can look for those guys to flourish.
You can call me crazy, but I look at Michael Ballman almost on the same level as DL Hall. I think he's that good of a pitcher.
Yeah, I would probably disagree.
Very different pitchers, but they're similar in that I think, as far as overall value.
If you're ranking them, yeah.
Exactly.
I would disagree. I do love DL Hall's stuff a lot. I think he's going to be – I don't even think he's going to be as good as Grayson Rodriguez will be. Agreed. But I think the stuff that he offers you can't really pass that up.
Yeah, I mean, the stuff's great. It's just about limiting walks for him.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Right, and I think they said he got better at that at the Bowie site. So if he starts doing that, DL Hall can be better than Grayson for sure. Definitely better than Michael Ballman. So Michael Ballman, again, more of his stuff is okay, but he's really I would call him a finesse pitcher. He's not a finesse pitcher like Tom Eshelman, but he's not going to blow you away. I mean, Michael Ballman doesn't have 100+ stuff to blow you away. So that's where DL Hall kind of puts his value really high, is that he throws really hard and his slider is amazing. And his curveball is really good too. So DL Hall, if he puts it together and stops walking guys, is going to be very valuable. But yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of a good overview of what's happening in the minors right now. I can't wait till minor league baseball comes back. I hope to go to a ton of games this whole summer. Really, it'd be nice. May 4th, opening day for minor league baseball. Yeah, it's also my birthday.
May the 4th be worth it. I was going to say that. No, I'm just kidding.
You have another podcast for that, Matt. You have the movie podcast you got going on.
Right. That we always talk Star Wars on that, and kind of a big hot topic for us. But absolutely.
Shameless plug.
Absolutely, May the 4th. That's Zach's birthday. Please wish him happy birthday on Twitter.
That's not necessary.
Receiving a flood of gifts that day, so that'll be fun as well.
For sure. Yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up for us. We'll be back, like I said, with Nate from Full Count Chaos. Another great Orioles podcast. We'll have him plug his stuff when he comes on for sure. But I would say that pretty much sums it up. Orioles face off tonight against the Texas Rangers at 8:00. Kind of an annoying start time, but the Rangers are in a different time zone than the Orioles are. So we'll have to wait another hour to watch Orioles baseball. But they get to face a team that's generally about the same level of competition that they are. Yeah.
I mean, that's definitely a good sign. I think they have, if not the same record, one win or loss different. Yeah, it should be a new start of a series. Is always, it's always refreshing. It's always gives you a little bit of hope coming off of
until they lose 2 out of 3. There's
3 consecutive series losses. So, maybe they can snag 2 out of 3 this series. That would be very much welcome, especially to Orioles Twitter and Orioles fans in general. So
I haven't seen the lineup tonight, but all I know is Brandon Hyde better be batting Pedro Severino in the top 5. Because he hit 3 home runs against Texas that one day. Obviously sees the ball very well there. Different stadium there. First time the Orioles will be in the new, I believe it's called Globe Life Park now.
Don't they call that thing like the tin can or something? It looks like a giant.
I think it's because they made these mock-up designs. It made it look like this glass, incredible looking place, and they made it out of tin. Right. It didn't live up to expectations. But Orioles first time playing there. It's either Globe Life Field, Globe Life Park. One's the old one, one's the new one. So
who could say?
Who could say?
What's that one stadium that has the same name for football and baseball? There's a stadium like that.
In the same city,
or maybe it's like T-Mobile or something. T-Mobile has
T-Mobile Seattle.
Yeah,
I have no clue if T-Mobile is the naming rights to a football as well. I don't know.
Could be.
I think it's still CenturyLink for the Seahawks. In
Seattle. Who could say?
It changes. Who knows?
It changes so often. So.
Who knows? Yeah, Seattle always playing around with their naming rights for sure.
All right. That'll wrap it up for this show. As always, subscribe to us on YouTube if you are just listening to this. Please tell a friend. Wrap it up into Orioles season. You're gonna look for new Orioles podcasts. You can find us on Twitter @FoulPolePod. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.